Every single thought you think is a vote. Not for president, for the kind of life you'll live next week, next month, next year. And here's the part that used to terrify me when I first discovered it. The votes are being counted now. Your subconscious is tabulating every worry, every doubt, every silent belief you carry about yourself, and it's building tomorrow's reality with today's inner repetition. Most people are losing elections they didn't know they were running in. They wonder why the same painful patterns keep winning, not realizing they've been campaigning for them in secret, in the quiet moments, in the thoughts they think nobody sees. But your subconscious sees, it always sees, and it always delivers. You've been taught that circumstances shape your life, that you're at the mercy of the economy, other people's choices, random chance, or your past, and that teaching has kept you in bondage. Here's the truth that will set you free. Your inner world is creating your outer world with perfect precision, right now, whether you believe it or not. But here's where most teachings fail you. They tell you to think positive without addressing the subconscious emotional undertow that's actually running the show. They give you affirmations, while your deeper mind is screaming a different story. That's why you feel like a fraud when you try to manifest. That's why the law of attraction seems to work for everyone but you. This video will show you why your subconscious doesn't care about your goals, only your dominant emotional states. How magnification works. The principle that whatever you give sustained feeling attention to expands in your material reality. Why trying not to think about something is the fastest way to create it. The exact mechanism by which worry, doubt, and fear become self-fulfilling prophecies. And how to interrupt the unconscious focus that's been building your unwanted reality. The reframe is this: you're not broken, you're not cursed, you're not bad at manifesting. You've simply been magnificently creative in the wrong direction, and if you can create hell unconsciously, you can create heaven consciously. This isn't about toxic positivity. This is about subconscious re-education, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to do it. Let me tell you about a woman I once knew. I'll call her Margaret, though that wasn't her real name. Margaret came to me exhausted, defeated, with a stack of self-help books under her arm and tears in her eyes. She was in her mid-40s, a school teacher, divorced, raising 2 children on her own. She sat down across from me, in my office, and the first words out of her mouth were, "Joseph, I've tried everything. I've said the affirmations. I've visualized. I've made the vision boards. I've read all the books. But nothing ever works out for me. Nothing ever works out for me." Did you hear what she just said? She didn't realize it, but that phrase, "nothing ever works out for me," wasn't a complaint. It was a command. It was an instruction she'd been repeating to her subconscious mind for years, maybe decades. Every time something went wrong, she'd sigh and say it. "Nothing ever works out for me." Every time she faced a disappointment, there it was again. "Nothing ever works out for me." When her car broke down, "Nothing ever works out for me." When her date didn't call back, "Nothing ever works out for me." When she didn't get the promotion, "Nothing ever works out for me." She thought she was just describing her experience, but she was actually creating it. You see, your subconscious mind doesn't argue with you. It doesn't say, "Now hold on, Margaret, that's not entirely accurate. Remember that time in 1987 when things worked out quite nicely? Remember when you got that teaching position you wanted? Remember when your daughter made honor roll?" No. Your subconscious mind is the most faithful servant you will ever have. It doesn't judge the quality of your instructions. It doesn't evaluate whether your beliefs are healthy or unhealthy, true or false, beneficial or destructive. It simply says, "Yes, ma'am," and begins arranging circumstances to prove you right. Margaret's subconscious heard her dominant belief, "Nothing ever works out for me," and it went to work like a contractor, following blueprints. It directed her attention toward evidence of failure, and away from evidence of success. It caused her to overlook opportunities that were right in front of her. It influenced her body language, her tone of voice, her energy when she walked into a room, all in ways that made success less likely. Not because she was cursed by some external force, but because she was consistent with an internal instruction. When she met new people, her subconscious made sure she radiated an energy of defeat. When opportunities arose, her subconscious whispered, "Don't get your hopes up. It won't work out anyway." When she was about to take a risk, her subconscious reminded her of every past failure, every past disappointment, as evidence that trying was futile. And so she became a magnet for more disappointment. Not because the universe was against her, but because her inner world was instructing her outer world with perfect clarity. I asked Margaret to do something difficult. I asked her to track that phrase for 1 week. Every time she said it out loud, or thought it silently, make a mark on a piece of paper. Carry a small notebook with you, I told her. Every time you catch yourself saying or thinking nothing ever works out for me, make a mark. She looked at me skeptically. What's that going to prove? She asked. Just trust me, I said. Just track it for 7 days. She came back 7 days later, and I could see something had shifted in her face. She was pale. Her hands were shaking slightly as she opened the notebook. "Joseph," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I said it 43 times. 43 times in 1 week. And those were just the times I caught myself. I'm sure I said it or thought it dozens more times without noticing. I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea I was doing this to myself. I looked at her with compassion. "Margaret," I said, "if you went to church and prayed 43 times in 1 week for something, would you be surprised if it showed up in your life?" She stared at me. The silence between us was thick. "I never thought of it that way," she whispered. "But that's exactly what you've been doing," I told her. "You've been praying for failure. You've been worshipful toward lack. Not with your lips in a church, not kneeling at an altar, but with your mind in the secret place where all creation begins. You've been in devotion to disappointment. And the law, which is neutral and faithful, has been answering your prayers with perfect accuracy." She started to cry, not tears of sadness, but tears of recognition. It was the cry of someone who suddenly sees the prison they've been living in, and realizes the door was never locked. "I've been doing this my whole life, haven't I?" she said. "Since I was a child, I watched my mother say the same thing. Nothing ever works out for us. It was like a family motto. I inherited it like I inherited her blue eyes." "Yes," I said. "And now you get to choose whether you'll pass it on to your children or whether you'll break the chain right here, right now." The transformation didn't happen overnight, but it began the moment Margaret realized she wasn't unlucky. She was loyal. Loyal to a destructive belief. And if she could be that loyal to a lie, she could be that loyal to the truth. Over the following months, Margaret began to do the work. Every time she caught herself about to say nothing ever works out for me, she would stop, take a breath, and say instead, "I am open to things working out for me." At first it felt false, like she was lying to herself. But she persisted. She replaced the old phrase with a new one, over and over, 43 times a week, then more. She watered the new belief with the same devotion she had given the old one. And slowly, gradually, her outer world began to shift, not because the universe suddenly decided to be nice to her, but because she had changed the instruction she was giving to her subconscious mind. 6 months later, she sent me a letter. "Joseph," she wrote, "I got the promotion. Not only that, but I met someone, a kind man who treats me with respect. My daughter got a scholarship. My car hasn't broken down once. And the strangest thing is, I don't think the world changed. I think I just stopped sabotaging myself. I stopped being in agreement with failure. Thank you for showing me that I was the one voting for my own misery. Have you ever considered that your complaints might be prayers in disguise? Because I want you to think about that right now. What phrase do you repeat about yourself? What story do you tell when things go wrong? I can't catch a break. I'm always broke. Nobody respects me. I'm not good enough. I always get sick this time of year. Relationships never work out for me. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm not lucky like other people." Every one of these statements is a prayer. Every one of them is an instruction to your subconscious mind. And your subconscious is listening right now. It's always listening. It never sleeps. It never takes a day off. And it's building your tomorrow based on the dominant thoughts and feelings you're giving it today. That story you keep telling, that repeated inner conversation, is not just describing your life. It's prescribing it. It's placing an order with the universe. And the universe is a restaurant that never gets your order wrong. It gives you exactly what you ask for, even when you don't realize you're asking. So I want you to ask yourself right now, what have I been ordering? What have I been asking for, with my habitual thoughts? Because whatever it is, it's on its way. It's already in preparation. And if you don't like what you've ordered, you have the power to change the order right now in this moment. Let me tell you a parable, a teaching story that will make this even clearer. Imagine two gardeners, and they live side by side in a small village. Both of them are given identical plots of land by the village elder. Same soil, rich and dark. Same sun, warm and generous. Same rain, consistent and nourishing. Same seeds, a mixture of vegetables, tomatoes, lettuce, carrots, beans and herbs. Everything is equal. The only variable is the gardeners themselves and where they choose to put their attention. The first gardener, I'll call him Thomas, he's a worrier by nature. He's heard from the other villagers that weeds are a problem in this region. The soil is so fertile, they tell him, that weeds grow just as well as vegetables, maybe better. And Thomas, being a conscientious man, takes this warning very seriously. He becomes vigilant. Every morning, the first thing he does is walk through his garden looking for weeds. He inspects every inch of soil with his eyes narrowed, searching, hunting. He bends down and examines the base of each plant. Are those weeds starting to grow? Is that a weed or a vegetable seedling? Better pull it just to be safe. He talks to his neighbors constantly about the weeds. How are your weeds? My weeds are terrible. Can you believe these weeds? I pulled 20 yesterday and today there are 30 more. It's like they grow overnight. He becomes an expert on weeds. He learns their names. Crabgrass, dandelion, thistle, bindweed. He studies their root systems. He researches their growing patterns. He knows which ones spread by seed and which ones spread by root. At night, before he falls asleep, he lies in bed thinking about the weeds. He pictures them in his mind, spreading through his garden like an invading army, choking out his vegetables, stealing nutrients from the soil, blocking the sunlight. He dreams about weeds. He wakes up anxious about weeds. His whole mental and emotional world becomes organized around the problem of weeds. And sure enough, his garden becomes overrun. The weeds are everywhere. They seem to grow faster than he can pull them. He spends all his time, all his energy, in battle with them. The moment he pulls one, 3 more appear in its place. He's exhausted. His back hurts from all the bending and pulling. His hands are covered in blisters. He's bitter. He becomes resentful. He looks at the empty basket at the end of the day, barely any vegetables, and he says to himself, gardening is impossible here. Nothing grows but weeds. This soil is cursed. I'm unlucky. I should just give up. The second gardener, I'll call her Grace, she also receives the same information about weeds from the villagers. She listens politely. She acknowledges the information. Yes, she says, I understand that weeds exist in this region. Thank you for letting me know. Noted. But then, and this is the crucial difference, she turns her attention elsewhere. She doesn't dismiss the reality of weeds. She's not in denial. She simply chooses not to make them the center of her focus. Every morning, Grace walks through her garden and she looks at her vegetables. She notices the tiny tomato seedlings pushing up through the soil, and she smiles. Look at you, she whispers. You're so strong. You're going to give me beautiful red tomatoes. I can already see them. She waters them with care, with presence, with love. She speaks to her plants. I know some people think this is silly, but Grace doesn't care. You're growing so beautifully, she tells them. I'm so grateful for you. I can't wait to harvest you and share you with my family. We're going to make the most delicious salad. She pictures the harvest in her mind, not as a distant possibility, but as a present reality. She imagines it so vividly that she can feel the weight of the ripe tomatoes in her hand. She can smell the basil, pungent and sweet. She can taste the lettuce, crisp and fresh. She can see herself in her kitchen, washing the vegetables, preparing a meal, feeding her children food that she grew with her own hands. This vision fills her with joy, with satisfaction, with peace. She falls asleep at night giving thanks for the garden, even before the harvest comes. Thank you for these seeds. Thank you for this soil. Thank you for the sun and the rain. Thank you for the abundance that is growing right now, even though I can't see it yet. Now, does Grace see the weeds when they appear? Of course she does. She's not blind. But when she sees a weed, she removes it calmly, without drama, without story, without emotional charge. She simply pulls it out, tosses it in the compost pile, and immediately returns her attention to what she wants to grow. She doesn't call her neighbors to complain about it. She doesn't lie awake at night thinking about it. She doesn't make it mean something about herself, or her garden or her worthiness. It's just a weed. It's part of the process. Remove it and move on. Her inner conversation is completely different from Thomas's. Where Thomas says, "These weeds are going to destroy everything," Grace says, "My vegetables are thriving." Where Thomas focuses on the problem, Grace focuses on the solution. Where Thomas is in resistance and fear, Grace is in acceptance and faith. And her garden flourishes. It becomes abundant beyond measure. The tomatoes grow heavy on the vine. The lettuce forms perfect heads. The carrots grow deep and sweet. The beans climb the trellis she built and produce more than she can eat. People walk by her garden and they stop. They stare. They ask her, "What's your secret? How is your garden so different from everyone else's in this neighborhood? We all have the same soil, the same seeds. Thomas over there can barely grow anything but weeds, and yet your garden looks like paradise. What are you doing differently?" And Grace smiles. She doesn't want to sound preachy or superior, so she says simply, "I just watered what I wanted to grow. Do you see it? Same soil, same Sunday, same seeds, same weeds available to both gardeners." The weeds were not more attracted to Thomas's garden than to Grace's garden. The potential for weeds was equal. But the results were radically different. Why? Because Thomas magnified problems, and Grace magnified possibility. Both of them were applying the law of magnification perfectly. The law doesn't play favorites. It doesn't care if you're a good person or a bad person, a kind person or a mean person, a spiritual person or a materialistic person. It simply responds to focus plus feeling. Thomas focused on weeds with worry, with fear, with obsessive attention, and weeds expanded in his experience. Grace focused on vegetables with love, with faith, with grateful attention, and vegetables expanded in her experience. The law gave both of them exactly what they focused on. It was utterly fair, utterly neutral, utterly faithful. Which gardener have you been? I want you to really think about this. In the garden of your life, what have you been watering? What have you been giving your sustained emotional attention to? The weeds or the vegetables? The problems or the possibilities? The evidence of lack or the evidence of abundance? And more importantly, which one will you become starting today? Because you can change. You can change right now. You don't have to wait for circumstances to improve. You don't have to wait until the weeds are gone. You can simply choose, in this moment, to redirect your focus, to become like Grace, to acknowledge what's wrong without obsessing over it, to remove the weeds without giving them your emotional energy, to pour your love and attention and faith into what you want to grow. I once had a student, a young man, maybe 25 years old, sincere, earnest, intelligent. He had been studying these principles for about 6 months, and he was getting frustrated. He came to me one day after a lecture, and he said, "Teacher, I have a question that's been bothering me. I need to understand this." He looked almost desperate. I said, "Of course. Ask me anything." He said, "How long must I hold the new thought before the old reality changes? How long do I have to keep affirming and visualizing before I see results? Because I've been doing this for months now and nothing has changed." I'm starting to think it doesn't work. I looked at him with compassion, because I understood his frustration. I had been there myself many years ago, and I said to him, "You're asking the wrong question." He seemed confused, almost offended. "What do you mean I'm asking the wrong question?" "It's a perfectly reasonable question. How long does it take?" I said. The question itself reveals a misunderstanding of how the law works. It's not about time. It's not about how long you hold a thought. It's about the emotional weight of the thought. "Let me explain," I continued. "The new thought must be felt with more frequency and intensity than the old fear. If you think one positive thought in the morning, one affirmation, 'I am prosperous, I am healthy, I am loved,' but then you spend the rest of the day worrying, doubting, complaining, fearing, which instruction do you think your subconscious will follow? The one you gave it for 2 minutes, or the one you gave it for 12 hours? He was quiet. I could see him processing this. I went on. "You see, if you think one positive thought but you worry all day long, the worry wins. Not because positive thinking doesn't work, but because you've cast 1 vote for abundance and 40 votes for lack. Your subconscious doesn't count hours or minutes. It counts repetitions. It counts emotional intensity. It counts the feeling tone you return to most often throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout your life. That is your dominant instruction. That is what it will build. So the question is not how long must you hold the new thought. The question is, how often are you returning to it? How much feeling are you putting into it? And how does that compare to the frequency and intensity of your old habitual thoughts?" The young man's face changed. "I think I understand," he said slowly. "So if I affirm something once but worry about it 100 times, I'm actually affirming the worry, not the desire." "Exactly," I said. "You've been trying to outthink your feelings, but the subconscious responds to feelings, not thoughts. A thought without feeling is like a seed without water. It doesn't grow. But a thought energized by emotion, repeated over and over, that becomes a command that the subconscious must obey." "So, what do I do?" he asked. "How do I change this?" I said, "You must become vigilant not about circumstances but about your inner conversation. Every time you catch yourself worrying, doubting, fearing, you must gently but firmly redirect your attention. Not with violence, not with self-judgment, but with the same patience you would use to train a puppy. The puppy wanders off, you call it back. Your mind wanders into fear, you call it back to faith. Over and over. That's the practice. That's the work. And here's the secret," I told him. 10 minutes of focused, emotionally charged, positive focus is worth more than 10 hours of scattered, half-hearted, fearful thinking, quality over quantity. If you can spend just 10 minutes a day feeling the reality of your wish fulfilled, really feeling it, saturating your emotional body with it, and then let it go and trust the process, that is infinitely more powerful than spending all day thinking about it anxiously. Do you understand? He nodded. "I think I've been trying too hard. I've been obsessing over whether it's working, which is just another form of doubt." "Yes," I said. "The trying is the problem. The subconscious doesn't respond to effort. It responds to acceptance. When you try to make something happen, you're affirming that it hasn't happened. But when you accept that it's already done in the invisible realm, when you feel it as a present reality, the subconscious says, 'Yes, this is true,' and begins to manifest it in the visible realm. Let me show you exactly what that means. Let me show you how the subconscious actually works. Because most people misunderstand this completely. Your subconscious mind doesn't understand negation. This is crucial. This is one of the most important things I can teach you. When you say, 'I don't want to be sick,' your subconscious doesn't hear the word don't. It can't process negation. It doesn't have that capacity. All it registers is the image and the feeling of sickness, because that's what you're focusing on when you say the sentence. It's like if I said to you right now, 'Don't think about a pink elephant wearing a top hat and dancing on a beach ball.' What just happened in your mind? You thought about a pink elephant wearing a top hat and dancing on a beach ball. Your brain had to create the image first in order to understand what not to think about. The subconscious works the same way, but it goes even deeper. It doesn't just create the image. it begins to align your reality with that image. When you say, I don't want to be alone, the subconscious hears the emotional frequency of alone. It feels the fear of loneliness, the ache of separation. And it says, I understand, you're requesting experiences that match this frequency. When you say, I hope I don't fail, the subconscious hears fail, registers the fear of failure, and begins creating circumstances where failure becomes more likely. When you say, I'm trying not to worry about money, it hears worry, and money, feels the anxiety in your body, and interprets that as a request for more situations to worry about regarding money. Do you see how tricky this is? You think you're protecting yourself by anticipating the negative, by preparing for the worst, by focusing on what you don't want so you can avoid it. But you're actually creating it. You're watering those seeds. You're voting for that reality. This is why so many people say, the thing I was afraid of came upon me. Of course it did. You rehearsed it 1,000 times in your mind. You gave it emotional energy. You made it real in the invisible realm, and the law of magnification brought it into the visible realm. There was a study done, I believe it was in the 1960s, by psychologists who were trying to understand anxiety and fear. And they noticed something peculiar, something that didn't fit the conventional understanding of how safety behaviors work. They found that people who obsessively checked their door locks at night, who checked them multiple times, who couldn't stop thinking about the possibility of break-ins, who laid in bed imagining intruders, they experienced more break-ins than people who simply locked their doors once and went to bed peacefully. Now, this baffled the researchers at first. They thought, well, surely the people who are more careful, more vigilant, more prepared, should be safer. That's what logic would dictate. But that's not how the subconscious law works. The people who checked obsessively weren't being careful. They were rehearsing fear. They were emotionally focused on the experience of violation. Every time they checked the lock, they were thinking, what if someone breaks in? What if I'm not safe? What if someone hurts me? And that emotional frequency, that vibration of fear and violation, became a vibrational request. Now, I'm not saying that checking your locks causes burglaries in some magical, supernatural sense. I'm not suggesting that there's a cosmic conspiracy. What I'm saying is that the emotional state of fear, when sustained and repeated, creates an energetic alignment with the very thing you fear. It affects your energy. It affects the subtle signals you send out into the world. It affects your intuition, your decision-making, your awareness. A person in chronic fear might ignore red flags. They might attract unstable people. They might live in a neighborhood that matches their inner frequency of danger. You become a magnet for the thing you focus on with emotion. This is why positive thinking fails most people. And I need to be very clear about this because the positive thinking movement has done a lot of damage by oversimplifying these laws. People are told, just think positive, just repeat affirmations, just visualize what you want. And they try it. They really try. But they're trying to think new thoughts while feeling old fears. They're saying affirmations with their mouth, while their stomach is clenched with anxiety. They're visualizing success, while their body is vibrating with the frequency of failure. And the subconscious always believes the feeling, not the words. You can say I am prosperous 1,000 times and if there is no feeling attached to it, if it's just words, mechanical repetition, nothing happens. Worse, you can say I am prosperous, while underneath that affirmation you feel poor, you feel the tightness of lack in your chest, the fear that there won't be enough, and the subconscious says, I understand what you really want. You want more experiences of lack. You want more evidence that there's not enough. And it delivers. Not because it's mean, or because it's trying to punish you, but because it's obedient, it's responding to the feeling, not the words. So let me give you a principle that might change everything for you, and I want you to write this down if you can. Frequency equals devotion. It's not the intensity of one thought that matters most. It's the repetition of the feeling thought. A chronic low-level worry will outweigh occasional positive thinking every single time. It's like a river. One powerful wave might make a splash, but it's the constant flow of water over years that carves the canyon. Most people think that if they say an affirmation once, it should undo 10,000 repetitions of doubt. That's like planting one seed of corn, and expecting it to overtake a field of weeds that have been growing for 20 years, without any further care, without watering, without tending. It doesn't work that way. Your dominant inner conversation is your prayer life. What you rehearse in private, you will experience in public. If you spend 12 hours a day thinking thoughts of limitation, lack, fear, resentment, worry, and then you spend 5 minutes thinking about what you want, which instruction do you think your subconscious will follow? The one you gave it with feeling for 12 hours or the one you gave it mechanically for 5 minutes? This is where most people fail. They want the law to work based on their conscious desires, but the law works based on their subconscious beliefs, and those beliefs are revealed by their habitual emotional states. I want you to understand something that might be hard to hear at first, but I promise you, it will liberate you once you really grasp it. The law of magnification is neutral. It is not personal. It doesn't punish or reward. It doesn't judge you as good or bad, worthy or unworthy, deserving or undeserving. It simply reflects and amplifies whatever you focus on with feeling. It's like electricity. Electricity doesn't care if you use it to power a hospital where lives are saved or an electric chair where lives are taken. It just flows where it's directed. The electricity itself is neutral. The outcome depends entirely on how you use it. The law is the same. It powers both abundance and poverty with equal faithfulness. It powers both health and sickness. It powers both joy and suffering. It powers both love and loneliness. The same mechanism that creates wealth creates poverty. The only difference is the direction of focus, the quality of the dominant emotional state. This is why good people suffer. And I say this with tremendous compassion, with deep love, because I've seen it over and over again in my years of teaching. Often, the kindest, most sensitive, most compassionate souls suffer the most, not because they're being punished by God or the universe, not because they did something wrong in a past life, not because they deserve it, but because they're magnifying the fear of suffering. They think about suffering constantly. They worry about all the terrible things that could happen. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They brace for impact. They expect pain. They carry the suffering of the world on their shoulders. And because they're sensitive, because they're empathetic, they take on the suffering of everyone around them. They worry for their children. What if something bad happens to them? They worry for their friends. What if they get sick? What if they lose their job? They worry for strangers they see on the news. They absorb the collective fear and pain, and they hold it in their bodies. And the law, neutral and faithful, says, as you believe, so it is done unto you. As you focus, so you create. And more suffering comes into their experience. I've seen people who are so compassionate that they become ill from carrying the emotional burden of others. They don't know how to witness pain without joining it. They don't know how to love someone without taking on their problems. And this breaks my heart, because their intentions are so pure. They think they're helping. They think that by worrying, by bracing, by imagining the worst, they're somehow protecting their loved ones. But worry is not protection. Worry is rehearsal. It's focus. It's emotional attention. And whatever you give sustained emotional attention to, you magnify in your own experience, and often in the experience of those you're connected to. So, compassion without boundaries becomes co-creation of suffering. This is a hard truth. True compassion, the kind that actually helps, is holding the vision of wholeness for another person, even when they can't see it for themselves. It's seeing them healthy when they're sick. It's seeing them prosperous when they're struggling. It's seeing them loved when they feel alone. It's refusing to join them in the emotional frequency of the problem while still loving them completely, while still being present with them. You can sit with someone in their pain without making their pain your pain. You can acknowledge their struggle without agreeing that the struggle is permanent. You can offer support without reinforcing their victim's story. This is the art of compassionate detachment. You care deeply, but you don't carry what isn't yours to carry. You love fiercely, but you don't magnify their fear. Instead, you become a lighthouse. You hold steady in your faith that they can heal, they can grow, they can overcome, even when they've lost faith in themselves. The law is like electricity. It powers both the hospital and the electric chair. Your focus chooses which. So right now I want you to ask yourself, and I mean really ask, not just as a mental exercise but as a genuine inquiry into your own inner world, what have I been powering? What have I been giving my sustained attention to? What have I been rehearsing in the privacy of my own mind? Because that's what's about to show up in your life with increased intensity. That's what's being built right now, in the invisible realm. And if you don't like what you see coming, you have the power to change it in this moment. Let me give you another principle, and this one is absolutely foundational. Feeling is the secret ingredient. I want you to remember this. Write it down. Tattoo it on your soul. Feeling is the secret ingredient. Thoughts without feeling are inert. They're dead. They have no creative power whatsoever. You can think about being wealthy all day long, but if there's no feeling attached to it, if it's just a mental concept, a distant wish, a maybe someday fantasy, nothing happens. The subconscious doesn't even register it. The subconscious responds to feeling. It responds to the emotional tone. It responds to the vibration in your body. This is why you can't fake it. You can't just mouth the words and expect results. You can't say I am abundant while your chest is tight with fear. You can't say I am healthy while your body is clenched with worry about disease. The subconscious knows. It always knows. It reads your emotional state like a book, and that emotional state is the instruction it follows. So how do you identify your real beliefs? Not the beliefs you wish you had. Not the beliefs you tell other people you have, but your real beliefs, the ones that are actually running your life. It's simple. Look at what you feel consistently, not what you think occasionally. Your emotions never lie. Your body never lies. You might tell yourself and everyone around you that you believe in abundance, that you believe you're worthy, that you believe good things are coming. But if every time you check your bank account, your stomach drops, if every time you think about your future you feel anxiety, if every time you see someone else succeed you feel envy or resentment, those feelings are telling you what you really believe. And I'm not saying this to shame you. I'm saying this to empower you. Because once you see the truth you can change it. But you can't change what you won't acknowledge. So I want you to do a feeling tone inventory right now. If you were to measure your emotional state over the course of an average day, over the course of an average week, what frequency are you broadcasting most of the time? Is it peace? Is it joy? Is it gratitude? Is it confidence? Is it love? Or is it anxiety? Is it resentment? Is it worry? Is it doubt? Is it fear? Is it comparison? Is it lack? Be brutally honest with yourself. Nobody else has to know. This is between you and your subconscious. And remember, your subconscious doesn't judge you for feeling fear or doubt or worry. It simply takes those feelings as instructions and begins building a reality that matches them. That frequency, that emotional broadcast, is your blueprint. That's what's being built in the invisible realm right now, before it materializes in the physical. A thought energized by emotion becomes a command. A thought without feeling is just noise. It's static. It doesn't register on the subconscious radar. So when you want to create something new in your life, when you want to manifest a desire, when you want to change a condition, you cannot just think about it. You must feel it. You must feel it, as if it's already done. You must generate the emotional state of the wish fulfilled. This is not pretending. This is not lying to yourself. This is operating in accordance with a spiritual law. The feeling comes first, then the manifestation. Not the other way around. Most people wait for the manifestation before they allow themselves to feel good. I'll feel abundant when I have money in the bank. I'll feel loved when someone loves me. I'll feel healthy when the symptoms go away. But that's backwards. That's not how creation works. The feeling is the cause. The manifestation is the effect. You must feel abundant before the money comes. You must feel loved before the person appears. You must feel healthy before the body heals. This is faith. Real faith. Not hoping, not wishing, not begging, but feeling the reality of your desire as a present fact, even when your physical senses tell you otherwise. And when you can do that, when you can sustain that feeling for more than a few seconds, when you can return to it again and again throughout your day, the subconscious has no choice but to manifest it. It must. It's law. Now here's where people get confused, and I want to address this directly because it's so important. You might be thinking, Joseph, are you telling me I should just ignore my problems? Are you saying I should pretend everything is fine when it's clearly not? Are you asking me to live in denial? No. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying at all. There's a difference between acknowledgement and agreement. There's a difference between seeing something and watering it. There's a difference between being aware and being obsessed. You can acknowledge that a problem exists without magnifying it. You can be aware of a challenge without obsessing over it. You can see what's wrong without making it the center of your universe. This is the tightrope. This is the balance. This is the skill you must develop if you want to become a conscious creator. It's what I call conscious observation versus unconscious obsession. When you observe something consciously, you see it clearly. You assess it accurately. You acknowledge the facts. And then you choose your response. You decide where to direct your creative energy. You make a plan if a plan is needed. You take action if action is required. But you don't give the problem your emotional devotion. You don't rehearse it over and over in your mind. You don't tell the story of the problem to everyone you meet. You handle it, and you move on. When you obsess unconsciously, you replay the problem over and over. You emotionalize it. You give it power. You make it bigger than it is. You catastrophize. You imagine it getting worse. You lose sleep over it. You talk about it constantly. You become identified with it. And in doing so, you magnify it. You feed it. You ensure its continued presence in your life. You can see the weeds without watering them. This is the key. Grace in the garden saw the weeds. She wasn't blind to them. But she didn't water them with her attention, her emotion, her conversation. She simply removed them when necessary, and immediately returned her focus to what she wanted to grow. That's the skill. That's the practice. So if you're in debt right now, yes, acknowledge it. Look at the numbers. Face the reality. Don't hide from it. Make a budget. Make a plan. Take whatever practical steps are necessary. But then, and this is critical, this is where most people fail, turn your sustained emotional focus toward the feeling of financial freedom. Don't spend all day every day thinking about the debt, worrying about the debt, talking about the debt, complaining about the debt, feeling ashamed about the debt, because that's watering the weeds. You're magnifying the very condition you want to eliminate. Instead, spend time each day feeling what it would be like to be financially free. Not just thinking about it, feeling it. How would your body feel if you had no debt? How would you walk? How would you breathe? What would you do with your day if you weren't worried about money? Where would you go? Who would you help? Let yourself feel the relief, the lightness, the peace, the joy. That feeling is the seed of your new reality. That feeling is the instruction to your subconscious mind. Here's the instruction, and I want you to commit this to memory. Notice. Breathe. Choose a new focal point. When you catch yourself in a fear loop, in a worry spiral, in a complaint fest, in a rehearsal of worst-case scenarios, don't shame yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Don't say, "Oh no, I'm doing it again. I'm such a failure. I'll never get this right," because that's just another layer of negative focus. That's just more weeds. Instead, simply notice. Become aware. Say to yourself, "I notice I'm focused on lack right now. I notice I'm worrying about my health. I notice I'm replaying that argument. I notice I'm imagining worst-case scenarios." Just name it. Bring it into the light of consciousness. Then take a breath. Literally. Stop whatever you're doing and take a deep breath. This interrupts the pattern. This creates a space between stimulus and response. This gives you a moment of choice. And then, choose a new focal point. Ask yourself, what do I actually want? Not what do I not want. What do I want? What does the solution look like? What does it feel like? And put your attention there even if it's just for 30 seconds. Even if the fear comes back a minute later, you're training your mind, you're creating a new neural pathway, you're teaching your subconscious that you are in charge, not your habitual patterns. You can't control the first thought. The first thought is often automatic. It's conditioned. It comes from years of habit, from childhood programming, from cultural conditioning, from past experiences. It just appears. But you can choose the second thought. You can choose where you go after the first thought appears. You can choose whether you're going to follow that thought down the rabbit hole, or whether you're going to gently redirect your attention to something more constructive, more beneficial, more aligned with what you actually want to create. And that choice, that moment of conscious redirection, repeated over and over day after day, is how you retrain the subconscious. That's how you change the program. That's how you break free from patterns that have been running your life for decades. It's not complicated, but it does require vigilance. It requires commitment. It requires you to be the guardian of your own mind. Let me tell you what this looks like in practice, because I don't want any of this to remain abstract. I want you to be able to use this today, right now, the moment you finish watching this video. I'm going to give you 5 specific practices, 5 techniques that you can implement immediately, and if you do these practices consistently, if you make them part of your daily routine, your life will change. Not because I said so, not because you hope it will, but because these practices align you with the law of magnification in a constructive direction. The first practice I want you to do is what I call the evening inventory. Every evening before bed, I want you to spend 5 minutes reviewing your day's focus. Just 5 minutes. You can do this while you're lying in bed. You don't need anything special. Just a quiet moment of reflection. Ask yourself these questions. What did I give sustained attention to today? What did I worry about on loop? What did I rehearse, wanted or unwanted? What was my dominant emotional state? And write it down if you can. Keep a small journal by your bed. Just make a list. I worried about my job security. I replayed the conversation with my mother 3 times. I imagined my partner leaving me. I complained about my body. I compared myself to people on social media and felt inadequate. I thought about my debt 17 times. Just write it down without judgment. Don't scold yourself. Don't feel guilty. Just observe. Just collect data. Awareness is the beginning of change. You cannot change what you will not acknowledge. The subconscious operates in the dark. It runs its programs automatically, beneath your conscious awareness. But the moment you shine the light of conscious awareness on an unconscious pattern, it begins to lose its power. It's like a vampire in sunlight. It can't survive being seen, so you write down what you focused on today. And then, here's the important part. You ask yourself, is this what I want to magnify? Is this what I want more of in my life? If I continue giving my emotional attention to these thoughts, these fears, these worries, what kind of life will I be creating 6 months from now, a year from now? And if the answer is no, if you realize you've been watering weeds all day, you simply acknowledge it. I see what I've been doing. Tomorrow I'll do better. And then you let it go. You don't carry it into your sleep. You release it. The second practice is what I call the replacement technique, and you use this throughout the day whenever you catch yourself in a negative thought pattern. It's very simple, but incredibly powerful. When you catch a fear thought, a worry thought, a lack thought, you follow these steps. First, don't resist the thought. Don't try to push it away. Don't say, no, I shouldn't think this, bad thought, go away, because whatever you resist persists. Resistance is just another form of focus. It's still giving energy to the thing you don't want. Instead, acknowledge the thought. Notice it without judgment. Say to yourself, I notice I'm focused on fear of losing my job. I notice I'm worried about my health. I notice I'm thinking about past failures. Just name it. This creates distance between you and the thought. You're not the thought. You're the one observing the thought. There's a space there. That space is your power. Second, ask yourself, what do I actually want instead? not what do I not want. What do I want? If I'm worried about losing my job, what I actually want is to feel secure in my career. I want to feel valued. I want to know that I'm taken care of. If I'm worried about my health, what I actually want is to feel vital and strong and well. Get clear on the opposite. Get clear on the desire beneath the fear. Third, redirect with feeling. This is the crucial step. Spend 30 seconds, just 30 seconds, feeling the desired state as if it's already true. Close your eyes if you can. Take a breath, and imagine yourself in that reality. If you want to feel secure in your career, imagine yourself at work, feeling confident, appreciated, relaxed. Imagine your boss complimenting you. Imagine your paycheck depositing reliably. Imagine yourself thinking, I love my job, I'm so grateful to be here. And let yourself feel it. Let the feeling spread through your body. Let it become real for that moment. And then, fourth, return to your day. Open your eyes. Get back to whatever you were doing. You don't have to hold the feeling for hours. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to interrupt the old pattern and insert a new one. And you do this every time you catch yourself in fear, over and over, 10 times a day, 20 times a day, however many times it takes, because each time you do it, you're weakening the old neural pathway and strengthening the new one. You're training your subconscious to serve a new master. You're showing it that you're in charge now. You're no longer going to let unconscious habit run your life. You're going to consciously choose your focus, consciously choose your feeling tone, consciously choose what you magnify. And over time this becomes automatic. The new pattern becomes the default. But it takes repetition. It takes practice. It takes commitment. The third practice is what I call the magnification mirror, and you do this once a week. Set aside maybe 30 minutes on a Sunday evening or a Saturday morning, whenever works for you. And you're going to look at your life results as feedback. You're going to use your outer world as a diagnostic tool to understand your inner world. Because remember, your outer world is always a perfect reflection of your dominant inner focus. Always. There are no exceptions. So you look at different areas of your life. Look at your relationships. If they're filled with conflict, drama, misunderstanding, ask yourself, have I been focused on what's wrong with people, or what's right? Have I been rehearsing grievances or appreciation? Have I been imagining arguments or harmony? Be honest. What's my dominant focus in this area? Look at your health. If you're dealing with illness, fatigue, chronic pain, ask yourself, have I been imagining sickness or vitality? Have I been focused on symptoms or wellness? Have I been grateful for my body or critical of it? What's been my habitual thought pattern around health? Look at your finances. If you're struggling with money, if you're in debt, if you can never seem to get ahead, ask yourself, have I been focused on debt or prosperity? Have I been thinking about bills or abundance? Have I been feeling poor or rich? What's my emotional relationship with money? Look at your career. Are you fulfilled or frustrated? Appreciated or overlooked? Growing or stagnant? And ask yourself, what have I been focused on here? Have I been complaining about my job or appreciating it? Have I been imagining failure or success? Have I been seeing myself as a victim, or as someone with value and potential? This isn't about shame, this is about data collection. This is about becoming a scientist of your own consciousness. You're not judging yourself as good or bad. You're simply observing cause and effect. Where you're experiencing lack, you've been magnifying lack thoughts. Where you're experiencing abundance, you've been magnifying abundance thoughts. It's that simple. It's that clear. And once you see the pattern, once you see the connection between your inner focus and your outer results, you can change it. You can't change what you won't acknowledge, but you also can't stay the same once you truly see. The seeing itself begins the transformation. So you write down your observations. This area of my life shows evidence of fear-based focus. This area shows evidence of faith-based focus. And then you make a conscious decision about where you're going to redirect your attention moving forward. The fourth practice is the saturation method, and I want you to do this daily for 10 minutes. This is non-negotiable. If you want to see real change, if you want to harness the full power of the law of magnification, you must do this practice every single day. 10 minutes. That's all. You can find 10 minutes. You can wake up 10 minutes earlier, or go to bed 10 minutes later. You can do it on your lunch break. You can do it in your car, before you go into work. The time of day doesn't matter. The consistency does. Here's how it works. Choose one desire. Just one. Don't scatter your focus across 20 different things. Don't try to manifest a new car and a relationship and perfect health and $1 million all at once. Pick one thing you want to create or experience. And for the next 30 days, that's your focus in this practice. Maybe it's financial abundance. Maybe it's a loving relationship. Maybe it's vibrant health. Maybe it's a fulfilling career. Whatever it is, choose it and commit to it for the full 30 days. For 10 uninterrupted minutes, no phone, no distractions, no interruptions. You're going to imagine this desire as already done, not as something you're trying to achieve, not as something you hope will happen someday, but as a present reality, as something that has already happened in the invisible realm, and is now manifesting in the visible realm. You're going to feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let's say you want a new job, a career that you love, that pays you well, that uses your gifts, that makes you feel alive. Don't imagine the process of getting the job. Don't imagine sending resumes or going to interviews. That's still focused on lack, on not having it yet. Instead, imagine it's 3 months after you've started this job. You're sitting at your desk. You're working on a project you love. You feel satisfied. You feel valued. You feel energized. Make it sensory. Make it vivid. Make it real. What does your desk look like? What can you see around you? Who are your coworkers? Imagine one of them saying good morning to you. What's their name? What do they look like? Imagine the weight of your laptop or the feeling of the keyboard under your fingers. Imagine the coffee in your cup. Taste it. Smell it. Imagine looking at your bank account and seeing your new salary deposited. Feel the relief. Feel the abundance. Feel the gratitude. Imagine calling a friend and saying, I absolutely love this job. I can't believe I get paid to do this. I feel so grateful. And feel what that would feel like to say those words truthfully. Let the feeling saturate your emotional body. Let it fill every cell. Let it become so real that for those 10 minutes, there's no doubt. It's done. It's yours. You're living it right now. And then, and this is crucial, this is where most people mess it up, release it. Let it go completely. Don't spend the rest of the day checking to see if it's manifested yet. Don't obsess over when it will come, or how it will come. Don't look for evidence that it's working, or panic when you don't see immediate results. That's like planting a seed, and then digging it up every hour to see if it's growing. You're disturbing the process. You plant the seed with your 10 minutes of focused feeling. You water it with faith. And then you let the soil do its work. You trust the process. You go about your day knowing that the subconscious is now working on your behalf, arranging circumstances, opening doors, creating opportunities, magnetizing the people and resources you need. But it can only do that work when you let go of the anxious need to control when and how. 10 minutes of concentrated, emotionally saturated, vivid focus is worth more than 10 hours of scattered, half-hearted, hopeful thinking. Quality over quantity. The subconscious doesn't need you to beg. It doesn't need you to convince it. It doesn't need you to explain why you deserve this or justify why you should have it. It just needs a clear, emotionally charged instruction. And then it goes to work. That's the law. That's how it functions. The fifth and final practice is what I call the gratitude magnifier, and you do this first thing in the morning. Before you check your phone, before you read the news, before you scroll social media, before you do anything else, you practice this. Because how you start your day sets the tone for your entire day. If the first thing you do is check your email and see a problem, you've just set your focus on problems. If the first thing you do is read the news and see tragedy, you've just set your focus on tragedy. If the first thing you do is scroll social media and feel envy or comparison, you've just set your focus on lack. But if the first thing you do is practice gratitude, you set your focus on abundance, you tune your instrument before you play the song. So here's the practice. The moment you wake up, before you even get out of bed, name 3 things you're grateful for that already exist. Not things you hope will come, not things you're trying to manifest. Things that are already here, already true, already present in your life right now. I'm grateful for this bed I slept in. I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful for my breath, for my beating heart, for the fact that I woke up today. I'm grateful for clean water. I'm grateful for my family, even if they're imperfect. I'm grateful for my eyes that allow me to see. I'm grateful for this moment of peace before the day begins. It doesn't matter what you choose. What matters is that you feel it. Don't just list them mechanically like you're checking boxes. Don't just think the words. Feel genuine appreciation. Let it spread through your chest. Let it warm you from the inside. Let yourself actually experience the emotion of gratitude. Because that emotion is a frequency. That emotion is a vibration. And you can't be grateful and fearful at the same time. It's physiologically impossible. The two states cannot coexist. Gratitude is the highest frequency of magnification. When you're in a state of appreciation, you're magnifying everything good that already exists in your life. And the law responds by bringing you more things to appreciate. You're telling your subconscious, this is what I value. This is what I want more of. More moments of peace. More experiences of abundance. More reasons to be grateful. And the subconscious says, understood, and begins creating circumstances that match that frequency. So you're choosing your starting point. You're choosing the lens through which you'll see your day. Will you see lack or abundance? Will you see problems or possibilities? Will you see what's wrong or what's right? The choice is yours. And you make it in the first few minutes after you wake up. This practice alone, if you do it consistently for 30 days, will change your life. I've seen it happen thousands of times. People come to me and say, Joseph, I started doing the gratitude practice and suddenly opportunities started appearing. People started being kinder to me. Money started flowing more easily. I feel lighter. I feel happier. And I tell them, it's not magic. It's law. You changed your focus. You changed your emotional frequency. You started magnifying what's good instead of what's bad. And the law responded exactly as it always does, with perfect faithfulness. Now, let me bring this all together, because I want to make sure you understand how profound this really is, how life-changing this is if you truly grasp it and apply it. Whatever you focus on grows, not because of magic, not because the universe is sentimental, not because there's some cosmic Santa Claus watching your thoughts and rewarding the good ones. It grows because your subconscious mind is the most faithful servant you'll ever have. It takes your dominant emotional focus, and it builds a world around it. It directs your attention toward evidence that supports your belief. It filters your perception so you see what you expect to see. It influences your body language, your energy, your vibration. It sends out signals that attract corresponding circumstances. It creates a coherence, a resonance, between your inner state and your outer experience. It makes your beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecies. You've learned today that your subconscious doesn't differentiate between what you want and what you fear. It only registers what you feel consistently. It responds to emotional frequency, not to words. You can say one thing with your mouth, while your body feels something completely different, and your body always wins. The feeling always wins. Because the subconscious believes what you feel, not what you say. You've learned that magnification is a neutral law, like gravity, like electricity. It doesn't punish or reward. It doesn't judge you as worthy or unworthy. It simply amplifies whatever you focus on with emotion. And you've been using it unconsciously in the wrong direction. You've been magnifying fear instead of faith. You've been magnifying lack instead of abundance. You've been magnifying problems instead of solutions. Not because you wanted to, but because you didn't know any better. You've learned that frequency matters more than intensity. It's not the power of one thought that creates your reality. It's the repetition of the feeling thought. The thought you return to 1,000 times in worry will outbuild the thought you hope for once. Your dominant inner conversation is your prayer life. What you rehearse in private, you will experience in public. This is law. This is how creation works. And most importantly, you've learned that you are not broken, you are not cursed. You are not a victim of circumstance. You've simply been magnificent in the wrong direction. Every unwanted thing in your life, every fear that came true, every limitation you experience, is proof that the law works. It's proof that you are a powerful creator. You just didn't know you were using your power. You didn't know where the control panel was located. But now you do. And that changes everything. Because once you know how the law works, once you understand the mechanism, once you see the connection between your inner focus and your outer results, you can never unknow it. You can never go back to believing you're a victim. You might slip into old patterns temporarily. You might forget for a day or a week. But you'll always come back to this truth. You'll always remember. I am the author of my focus, and my focus creates my reality. Here's what I need you to understand. As you step away from this video and go back into your life, you've been a perfect creator all along, not a failed manifester, not someone who's bad at this, a perfect creator. Every fear that came true, you magnetized it. You gave it emotional energy. You rehearsed it in your mind. You made it real in the invisible realm. And the law, faithful and neutral, brought it into the visible realm. Every limitation you experience, you focused it into form, not consciously, not deliberately, not because you wanted to suffer, but because you didn't understand the law. You didn't know that your habitual thoughts and feelings were instructions. You didn't know that your subconscious was listening and responding to every emotional signal you sent. But this might make you angry at first. You might think, Joseph, are you saying this is all my fault? Are you blaming me for my problems? Are you saying I created my own suffering? And I want to be very clear about this because it's so important. No, I'm not talking about fault. Fault implies blame and shame and guilt. Fault is about the past and about punishment. That's not what this is about. I'm talking about power. Power implies ability and choice and responsibility. Power is about the present and the future. Power is about what you can do now. You are powerful. You've always been powerful. You just didn't know where the power was located. You thought it was out there, in circumstances, in the economy, in other people's decisions, in luck, in fate, in the stars, in your childhood, in your genetics. But it's not. It never was. The power is in here. In your focus, in your feeling, in your dominant inner conversation, in the thoughts you think and the emotions you feel and the stories you tell yourself about who you are and what's possible for you. That's where the power is. And the moment you take responsibility for that power, not with guilt, but with gratitude, everything shifts. Because when you blame circumstances, you're powerless. When you blame other people, you're powerless. When you blame the past, you're powerless. You have to wait for something external to change. Before you can feel better, before you can have what you want, before you can be happy. You're at the mercy of the world. You're a victim. But when you take responsibility for your focus, for your feeling tone, for your inner world, you become powerful. You become the creator. You become the author of your own experience. You don't have to wait for circumstances to improve. You don't have to wait for someone to rescue you. You don't have to wait until you're older or younger, or richer or thinner, or more educated. You can change your reality right now by changing your focus, by choosing what you magnify, by deciding what you're going to water in the garden of your mind. So here's what I want you to say to yourself right now. And if you're somewhere where you can speak out loud, I want you to actually say it. Let your subconscious hear your voice making this declaration. Let your body feel the vibration of these words. If you can't speak out loud, say it in your mind. But say it with feeling, with conviction, with certainty. I am not a victim of my circumstances. I am the author of my focus. My subconscious mind is listening to me right now, in this very moment, and from this point forward, I am giving it new instructions. I will magnify what I want, not what I fear. I will water the garden I want to harvest. I will focus on solutions, not problems. I will rehearse success, not failure. I will feel abundance, not lack. I am the gardener of my own mind. I am the artist of my own life. I am the creator of my own reality. And I choose my focus with love, with intention, with wisdom, and with faith in the law that has never once failed me, that has never once abandoned me, that has been responding to me with perfect faithfulness since the day I was born. The law doesn't fail. It never fails. It only reflects. It only amplifies. It only delivers what I focus on with feeling. And now that I know this, now that I understand this, I will use this power consciously. I will use it deliberately. I will use it to create a life of joy, of abundance, of peace, of love, of health, of prosperity, of contribution. Not because I'm special, but because I understand how the law works. And the law works for everyone equally. Say it. Mean it. Let it sink into the deepest part of you, past your conscious mind, past your doubts, past your fears, all the way down into your subconscious, where the real work happens. Because this is true. This is not just a nice idea, or a pretty philosophy, or a motivational speech. This is spiritual law. This is how reality is structured. This is how creation works. And you have access to this power right now. You are not at the mercy of the world. The world is responding to you. It's always been responding to you. You just didn't realize you were broadcasting a signal. You didn't realize that your thoughts and feelings were creating a frequency, a vibration, that was going out into the universe and attracting matching circumstances back to you. But now you know. And you can never unknow. And that knowledge is your liberation. If this teaching resonated with you, if you felt something shift inside, even slightly, even just a crack of light coming through where there was darkness before, do me a favor, hit that like button. Not for me. I don't need it for my ego. But do it as a signal to yourself. Do it as a declaration. Do it as a commitment. I am ready to become conscious of my creative power. I am ready to stop being a victim of unconscious focus. I am ready to start being a master of deliberate creation. I am ready to take responsibility for the garden of my mind. That like button is a vote. Remember what I said at the beginning? Every thought is a vote. Well, so is every action. When you hit that button, you're voting for yourself. You're saying, I believe this is true. I believe I have this power. I believe I can change my life by changing my focus. I'm ready to do the work. I'm ready to practice. I'm ready to transform. And if you found even one idea in this video that you'll carry with you into tomorrow, even one technique that you're going to try, even one shift in perspective that opens something new for you, subscribe to this channel. Because I'm going to keep teaching you how to master the unseen laws that govern your life. Not from theory, not from speculation, but from the deep well of truth that has transformed millions of lives over decades, including my own. I'm going to show you how to use your mind correctly, how to harness the power of your subconscious, how to create from the inside out instead of trying to manipulate circumstances from the outside in, how to align yourself with the infinite intelligence that flows through all things, how to become a deliberate creator instead of an unconscious reactor. This is the most important work you will ever do. This is the foundation of everything. Master this, and everything else becomes easier. In the comments below, I want you to answer one question. Just one. And I want you to be honest. I want you to be vulnerable. I want you to be real. What have you been magnifying without realizing it? Just name it. Write it down. See it in black and white on the screen. Because seeing it is the first step to changing it. Acknowledging it is the beginning of transformation. Maybe it's fear of rejection, and you realize now that you've been focused on rejection so much that you've been creating experiences of rejection. Maybe it's worry about money, and you see now that you've been in devotion to lack, rehearsing poverty, imagining bills you can't pay. Maybe it's resentment towards someone who hurt you, And you understand now that you've been keeping that pain alive by replaying it over and over, magnifying it, watering it, feeding it your emotional energy. Maybe it's comparison to others. And you've been magnifying your own inadequacy by constantly measuring yourself against people who seem to have more, be more, do more. Maybe it's health anxiety, and you've been focused on symptoms and disease and everything that could go wrong with your body. Maybe it's loneliness, and you've been rehearsing the feeling of being alone, imagining yourself unloved, unwanted, forgotten. Whatever it is, just name it. No shame, no judgment, no beating yourself up. Just honest awareness. I've been magnifying this, I see it now. And seeing it is powerful, because you can't change what you won't acknowledge. But once you acknowledge it, once you bring it into the light of consciousness, it begins to lose its grip on you. The unconscious pattern becomes conscious. And once it's conscious, you have choice. You have power. You can redirect. And I'll be reading those comments. I'll be there with you. I'll be witnessing your courage, your honesty, your willingness to look at yourself truthfully, and I'll be celebrating with you as you begin to apply these principles and watch your life transform, because it will transform. It must. That's the law. You are more powerful than you've been taught. You are more creative than you've been told. You are more in control than you've been led to believe. The world has been lying to you, telling you you're small, limited, powerless, at the mercy of forces beyond your control. But that's not true. It never was. You are the focus. And the focus becomes the form. Always. Without exception. Where your attention goes, energy flows. Where energy flows, life grows. This is the law of magnification. This is how you've been creating your life all along. And now that you know how it works, now that you understand the mechanism, you can use it consciously. You can use it deliberately. You can use it to build the life you truly want, instead of unconsciously creating the life you fear. Go now. Go into your life with this knowledge. Go with this power. Go with this understanding. And grow what you truly want. Water the seeds of your desires. Focus on what you want to magnify. Feel the feelings you want to experience. Become the person who already has what you desire. And watch as the outer world rearranges itself to match your inner world. This is your birthright. This is your power. This is your truth. Use it wisely. Use it consciously. Use it with love. And remember, every single moment is a new beginning. Every breath is a chance to choose again. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get it right every time. You just have to be willing. Willing to see. Willing to choose. Willing to redirect. Willing to practice. The law doesn't demand perfection. It only responds to consistency. So be patient with yourself. Be compassionate with yourself. Be gentle with yourself as you learn this new way of being. You're undoing decades of unconscious programming. You're rewiring neural pathways that have been running on autopilot since childhood. That takes time. That takes practice. That takes repetition. But every time you choose to redirect your focus, every time you choose to feel what you want, instead of what you fear, you're one step closer to mastery. And one day, sooner than you think, you'll wake up and realize that your outer world has transformed. Not because circumstances magically changed, but because you changed. You changed your focus. You changed your feeling tone. You changed what you magnified. And the law, faithful and true, responded. It always responds. It never fails. It's responding to you right now. So I'll leave you with this final thought. You are living in a garden of your own making. Every thought is a seed. Every emotion is water and sunlight. Every day is a growing season. What you plant today, you will harvest tomorrow. What you water with your attention, you will eat from next season. So plant wisely, water consciously, and prepare for an abundant harvest. Because it's coming. It's already on its way. You've already set it in motion with the thoughts you're thinking and the feelings you're feeling right now. The law of magnification is working in your life at this very moment. The question is not whether it's working. The question is, what am I magnifying? And now you know the answer. And now you have the tools. And now you have the power. Go and create the life you were born to live. I believe in you. The universe believes in you. And most importantly, your subconscious is ready to believe whatever you tell it with feeling and conviction. Make sure you're telling it a story worth living. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being willing to look at yourself honestly and take responsibility for your creative power. You are magnificent, not because of what you have or what you've accomplished, but because of what you are. You are a creator, made in the image and likeness of the infinite creator, and everything, absolutely everything, is possible for you when you learn to focus your power in the right direction. Blessings on your journey. May you magnify love, abundance, health, joy, peace, and prosperity. May you water the garden of your dreams until they bloom in the physical world. May you remember, in every moment, that you are not a victim but a creator. And may your life become a living testament to the truth of these laws. Go now with my love, and with the certainty that whatever you focus on grows. Choose your focus wisely, my friend. Everything depends on it.